we both have gone through and made our selections of who we think could be the final four teams standing. You didn't. Okay, so this will be a reveal. But for the people at home, let's get yours first, Michael. Who are your final four?
I kind of was boring. I went Alabama, Michigan, USC, and Georgia.
Okay.
And so it's somewhat boring. I took Michigan to beat USC, and I think Michigan will be the winner. And I'll full disclosure, I love Michigan, love Jim Harbaugh. I mean, I like Nick Saban too, so it's a rooting interest. I kind of like yours better because you went off the divergent track. I always like that. I don't trust. You can read yours. One of the coaches on the list, I'm not sure that I trust fully, but we'll go down that road.
I'm not sure I fully trust it either, but you got to take a shot every now and then. They say you got to risk it to get the biscuit, Michael. But yes, yours might be quote unquote boring because it is the top dogs, but they're the top dogs for a reason, right? Like these teams are the ones that you largely expect to get there in Georgia, Alabama, and Michigan on a year in, year out basis. You took a little bit of a shot with USC, and the thing I find interesting about that, and I wonder if you can sell me on it, do you think that this defense for the Trojans is going to develop throughout the course of the season? Because if week 0, what we saw against San Jose State was any indication, it looked just as bad as it did last year. Those guys still can't even tackle for whatever reason. We saw the 57-yard run that got broke on them, 2 touchdowns that were over 24-yard touchdowns, I believe. Like that's not what you're looking for against a group of 5 program, let alone when you get deep in the season and have to face offenses like Notre Dame and Oregon and Washington.
Yeah, Stormy, I really have this belief that sometimes, and I think it happened with the great Mike Leach, God rest his soul, sometimes these offensive coaches are so concerned about offense and they coach as head coaches, as offensive coordinators, and they really never make their defense tough enough. Mm-hmm. They never make their defense tough enough to win hard games. And that's what bothers me about USC. It's always about, we'll just outscore you. We'll get into a track meet, we'll outscore you, and we'll win. I got it. You're good. You can do that in the Pac-12 or what was the Pac-12. I don't know if you could do it all the time. I don't know if you can sustain that. That's what worries me. I don't think it's an accident they're not good on defense. I think it's just the way Lincoln Riley's program is. Now, when they had Venables in Oklahoma, it was different, and they were able to play a little bit better. He went to Clemson. Now he's back at Oklahoma. I don't know. I just think it's hard. Oklahoma had the same issues defensively. You remember?
Yep. And this USC team is going to light up the scoreboard offensively. We know that. This is going to be a team that, while odds makers will adjust to it, is likely going to be a team that you're targeting overs on pretty frequently because the defense isn't great and the offense is really, really good. And you've got a guy that's trying to be the first Heisman Trophy winner to go back-to-back since the 70s. It's a special guy. It's a special team in a lot of areas. I just look at their schedule and I see 4 of the last 6 weeks of their schedule that have these high-powered offenses they have to take on. And I wonder if you can count on a situation where you have to win in a shootout week in, week out. I love the Michigan pick. And so now we'll turn the focus to where I put my 4, Michael, because I went back and forth on Michigan about 50 times, but I wanted to take a shot. And out of the Big Ten, I took Penn State. And you referenced it, not trusting one of my coaches. 10 out of 10, I'm guessing you're talking about James Franklin.
Yeah, I am. I mean, look, he's got a good team. Clifford, what worries me is Clifford played better at Green Bay this summer than I saw him play at Penn State at State College. And I'll argue that with anybody. Like, I didn't see this in Clifford. Give Brian Gutekunst and the Packers staff, they saw something I didn't see. So, look, Penn State's recruited well. They've got a lot of players. I'm rooting for them. I am. I mean, I come to work and I have to travel about 15 blocks and I'll see 30 Penn State flags. So I live in the Penn State world, right? Like, I live in this world. I don't mind it. It's not bad for me. It's not as, the Philadelphia Eagle world gets a little harder because I have some interest in other teams. So the Penn State world doesn't bother me as much.
Yes, and I don't blame you for not trusting James Franklin. It is a shot for a reason. But the reason I put them in there was because I don't think that it's as much of a two-horse race between Michigan and Ohio State like everybody else does. I really think the gap is going to be shorter than that. With Sean Clifford moving on after 80 years in college football, I really like Drew Aller. And I think he is a player, just 19 years old, but a 4-star recruit out of high school, number 2 pocket passer in the nation in the ESPN 2022 300. He has had the opportunity to learn last year, is going to stay in that system. Same coaching staff carries over. And he's the type of player I think could really be a difference maker in those key games against the top tier programs in the Big Ten. And even if you don't win both of those games against Ohio State and Michigan, I think you just have to not lose them both and not lose badly. If you win one of those games, you're going to have an opportunity to play for the Big Ten title. And if you win that, then the sky's the limit. I like a lot of what they have. I think this might be the best roster James Franklin has had since the last time they won the Big Ten. And I'm really, really excited about their running backs. They have maybe the best offensive linemen in college football in Fashanu. So I'm taking a shot with them. I'm also taking a shot with Washington in year 2 under Kalen DeBoer. What a turnaround that program had. Michael Penix Jr., another one of those quarterbacks that if he stays healthy has potential, I think, to be in that Heisman conversation down the line. So I took a shot off the board. Going elsewhere in the Pac-12 other than USC. I've got Georgia and LSU in there. That will be my championship game, though I do have an all-SEC title tilt. And I got Brian Kelly coming out on top of this thing. That roster is loaded, Michael, and I really think they could get after it. We kind of made the joke earlier after the College World Series when Jay Johnson and LSU won the national championship in his second year as a head coach. Kim Mulkey in women's basketball, they won the national championship at LSU her second year as a head coach. I'm sensing a theme here. I think Brian Kelly could get it done.
Yeah, let me ask you this. Let's go back to Penn State for a second. Kyle McCord was named the starting quarterback at Ohio State. Do you think Penn State is better than Ohio State? Let's keep Michigan out of the conversation. I think Michigan is the best team in the Big Ten. Do you think that Penn State's the second best team?
I think that it's going to be they're going to have to earn it, Michael, right? I think that Ohio State has year in and year out proven that they and Michigan are the top dogs. And so it's going to take somebody supplanting them and proving that they're better than. But I think Ohio State, for once, has a question mark at a position that typically they come in with a lot of confidence in. And maybe that gives Penn State a little bit of an edge. Like, it took Ohio State a while to settle on what they were going to do. Meanwhile, Penn State has had this kind of young talent in waiting that I keep hearing nothing more but just about what a cerebral player he is, how accurate he is, 6'5", 242, hard guy to take down. I think head-to-head, Penn State has a much better chance than people are giving them right now to be either that number 2 or number 1 team in the league. I do.
Yeah, I mean, if Allers is as good as the ESPN rating says he is in terms of the pocket, their talent level matches up with anybody. I mean, they're the LSU really of the Northeast. They've got a lot of players like LSU does. And I think it's not a play that you're wrong with. I think it's all going to come down to, can Aller run? I think Manny Diaz last year defensively was good for them. I think he did a good job, and they've improved, and they're still good on defense. So I don't think you're off the track. Same thing, like I wanted to put Washington in mine only because I thought Washington would be tougher and do all those things because I love Michael Penix Jr., but I just, I went too conservative, and I'm mad at myself because I do think Washington's a good sleeper team. I think Jennifer Cohen, who's now went to USC as the athletic director, she made a great hire in Kalen DeBoer, and then he made a great decision because remember when Penix played at Indiana without DeBoer when he was at Fresno State, he wasn't the same player. I think the second year he'll be even better.
This team, Michael, went from 4-8 before Kalen DeBoer took over to 11-2 last year in a bowl win over Texas. And you look at the losses that they had, I hate to say it, but total trap game at UCLA followed up by a slump appearance at ASU. They beat all the big dogs on their schedule, including 4 nationally ranked opponents. And they're going to have all of the opportunity with a challenging schedule this year that if they're able to win those games, I think are going to be very, very deserving of a spot, especially considering you get the head-to-heads late in the season at home against Utah and then on the road in the Coliseum against USC going going, like two potential Heisman candidates going head to head, proving mano a mano who's going to be the better guy on that given day, I think is going to be really exciting down the stretch. And in addition to the Power 5 opponents that Washington plays, they're going to open up the season this week against Boise State, which is one of the best Group of 5 programs in the nation. So yeah, I'm really excited to see the potential for Washington. And so I got a little risky. I took a couple shots with my CFP, Michael, but
I love it.
But I don't think that you're off the mark at all with your picks. Like, I know they're not like exciting and hot takey, but they're very solid programs and could very easily end up there.
I just think Alabama is going to be different this year. I think Nick Saban was embarrassed last year. And when you give up 52 points to Tennessee and you're a defensive coach by trade and you watch the secondary like nothing else and you coach the secondary even though you have a secondary coach, I think they're going to be way better defensively. Now, does that mean it's going to translate to their offense? I think that'll sort itself out the first month of September as they play some of these easy teams. But I think defensively is why I'm counting on them being the Final Four.
It's interesting. Defensively, that's why you're counting on them. But USC, you're riding with that defense? Come on, Michael. I got to understand the logic here. No, I'm just giving you a hard time.
Visit VSiN.com to get current odds. Listen for free, find showtimes, and download VSiN sports betting podcasts.